Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. In this video, we're going to talk about how to conduct mediation analysis. Before I demonstrate with you how to conduct mediation analysis, let us first have a short lecture. So psychologists often conduct research to establish whether and to what extent one variable affects another. So say for example, you would like to determine how a certain independent variable is related to an outcome variable, to a dependent variable. Say, for example, you would like to determine how parenting is associated with psychological distress. However, the discovery that two variables are related to each other is only one small part of the aim of psychology. Deeper understanding is gained when we comprehend the process that produces the effect. So let me put emphasis on the last statement. Deeper understanding is gained when we comprehend the process that produces the effect. So what does that mean? It suggests that in psychology, we're not only interested in establishing, in understanding how an independent variable, whether or not there's a relationship between an independent and a dependent variable. Rather, in psychology, we would also want to answer the questions why and how the independent variable is related to the dependent variable. Like, are there explanatory variables in between these two variables that we're interested with? For example, how and why is, say, for example, authoritarian parenting associated with psychological distress? Like, what is it with authoritarian parenting that heightens the individual's perception that he or she is experiencing distress? Well, maybe there are variables in between that explain the relationship. For example, if you have experienced authoritarian parenting, maybe you're more likely to have experienced a lot of stress, and the stress that you have experienced brought about by the parenting style of your parents is the reason as to why you're experiencing psychological distress. Specifically, maybe we can say anxiety or depression. Okay, so there is a variable in between parenting and psychological distress, and that is the amount of stress that you have experienced. Or let me give you another example. Since my research interests on perfectionism, I've always wondered how and why is perfectionism related to various psychological outcomes like distress once again. Well, it appears that people who are perfectionists are more likely to experience fear of failure, and their fear of failure is the reason as to why they experience higher levels of anxiety. Okay? So the fear of failure is the intervening variable. Anyway, say for example, you would like to determine how family problem or your perceived family problem affects your school performance. Like we always say, if there are family problems, definitely the school performance of the child would be affected. Well, yes, to some extent that's true, but we are barely scratching the surface if we only look at these two variables. Why don't we try to answer the question, why is family problem related to school performance? Maybe there's a variable in between, and if I am going to be the one who will conduct the research, maybe I can look into, once again, stress. Okay, so family problem makes you experience stress, elevated amounts of stress. And the stress that is brought about by family problem is the reason why your performance in school is declining. Okay, so family problem triggers perceptions of stress, and the feeling that you are stressed out is the reason as to why you cannot perform well in school. Okay, as you can see, this is how we present the mediation framework. It looks like this. So the independent variable is on the left, the outcome variable is on the right, while the mediating variable is in the middle. As you can see, there are three arrows here, one from the independent variable to the mediator, one from the mediator to the dependent variable, and another one from the independent variable to the dependent variable. Okay, think of them as just like in regression, think of these as effects. Okay, think of these as separate regression analysis combined into one. Like, to answer this question, we can run three regression analysis, one from family problem to stress, another one from stress to school performance, and another one from family problem to school performance. But that would be a lot of tests. Why don't we simply combine the analysis into one? Okay, and that's why we have what we call mediation analysis. It allows us to test complex models. Like, actually, this is not so complex, it's just a simple mediation model. Okay, the more complex ones can be tested using more complex models, and also using structural equation modeling, which will not be covered in this video. This video will only cover simple mediation analysis. And in simple mediation, you only have one mediating variable. Okay, and our mediating variable here is stress, and we examine how it affects the relationship of family problem and school performance. Now, um, let me get into the technical details. Here are some things to remember in mediation analysis. Okay, so as you can see, there are two panels on the right. So we have here in panel A, we have here the variable x and the variable y, and an arrow pointing from x to y, and it's labeled as C. In panel B, we have here the x, the mediator, and the outcome variable, and we have the following letters, letter A, letter B, and letter C. With an apostrophe, we actually read it as C prime. Okay, so what is this illustration trying to tell us? Well, path A refers to the relationship of the IV and the mediator. So this is path A. It's important to remember these terminologies because these are also the ones used in research. So if you understand the meanings of these paths, then it's easier for you to follow through with the demonstration later, and it's easier for you to understand what the literature is saying, particularly those papers that use mediation analysis. Okay, let's look at another one. Path B refers to the relationship of the mediator and the dependent variable. So this is path B, the effect of the mediator to the outcome variable. What else? We also have path C prime. So path C prime is the effect of x onto the outcome variable, onto the dependent variable. Later, we'll differentiate it from C. Okay, and this time, let me talk about the indirect path and the direct path. So obviously, this is the indirect path. I'm highlighting it right now. This is the indirect path. The indirect path is the combination of paths A and B. So mathematically speaking, if you multiply path A with path B, that's the indirect path. So in order for you to say that there's mediation, both paths A and B should be significant. The indirect path should be significant. While the direct path is this one. Okay, from X to Y. This is also path C prime. How is this different? How is C prime different compared to this? How is panel A different compared to panel B? Panel A doesn't have the mediator in the model. So this is simply this is a simple regression from X to Y. While in panel B, we now have the mediator. So we're using the symbol C prime instead of C to differentiate in order for us to clarify that what we are talking about here in C prime is the direct effect with the mediator in the model. While the path C here in panel A doesn't control for the effect of the mediator. Okay? We also call it total effect. There are some debates whether you need to conduct a simple regression first before you do a mediation analysis. But today I'm going to focus on the approach of Preacher and Hayes rather than on the approach of rather than the Barron and Kenny approach. Basically, in the Barron and Kenny approach, you need to test for the direct effect first, You need to you need to establish that there's a significant relationship between the X and the Y before you test for the mediation. Okay, that's for the Barron and Kenny approach. But in the Preacher and Hayes approach, you can go directly onto the mediation analysis. So I rarely use Pat C when talking about the mediation results. I only report Pat A, Pat B, and Pat C prime. Once again, Pat C is the total effect. That is the effect of the X on Y without the mediator, while Pat C prime is the effect of X on Y with the mediator present. Okay. Now, with that being said, let me differentiate the terms full mediation and partial mediation. So when we say full mediation, the indirect effect is significant while the direct effect is not significant. So in full mediation, going back to the illustration in the previous slide, in full mediation, only paths A and B are significant. Path C prime is no longer significant. Meaning, in full mediation, we were able to prove that it is not really X that affects Y, but instead the effect of X and Y is fully explained by M. Okay. On the other hand, when we say partial mediation, both the indirect effect and the direct effect are significant. So what do we mean by partial mediation? In partial mediation, both X and M are significantly predicting the Y. It means that both the direct and the indirect paths are significant, meaning it is the M does not fully explain the effect of X on Y, but rather both the X and the mediator partly or partially explain the partially affect Y. Okay, so now let us, with that being said, I think we can now run the analysis. And in this demonstration, I'm using the data from the textbook of Andy Field. And so this is about examine and perceive product quality mediates the relationship between advertisement quality and customers' intention to purchase the product, or in this case, this was a study about tablets. Okay. Apologies for the example if you expected a more psychology related one, because I think this is more of business rather than psychology, more marketing related. Well, anyway, my objective is just to show you how we run the mediation analysis. No? So I hope you're okay with this example. But basically, what is this all about is we want to determine if the quality of the advertisement, maybe on TV or on the internet, no, or whatever, affects the intention of the potential customers to purchase the tablet. Okay, so basically our question is, do better ads increase sales or the intention of the customer to purchase the tablet? But we have a mediator, perceived product quality. Okay, so let me retell the point, no, of the research question. So basically, they would like to determine if the advertisement is well made. Okay, if there's an excellent, if the quality of the advertisement is excellent, does it increase the perception of the quality of the tablet? Like, does it make the people think that the tablet is good? Does it make the people evaluate the product? Does it make the people perceive the product positively? Does it affect people's perception of the product? And is their perception related to their intention to buy the product? So that is what this research is about. How does the quality of the advertisement affects the perceived quality of the product, and how does the people's perception of the product quality affects their purchase intention? So for example, there's a new advertisement on iPhone. It was well made. Of course, the people will think that the new iPhone is really good. And because of that perception, they are likely to purchase the new iPhone. So let's determine if that is the case in this study. And I have already prepared the data set. So let me just open it very quickly. I got this from the textbook of Andy Field. So everything was already provided. I did not do data gathering on my own. And now let's run the analysis. But before I do that, it's important to emphasize that you should already have process macro for SPSS installed. It's a plugin for SPSS. You may search the internet on how to install that. That's required in order for you to run mediation analysis in SPSS. Okay, but to run the mediation analysis, let's click on Analyze and let's look for regression. And if you have installed the plugin successfully, you will see here Process by Andrew Hayes. So click on that one and let me just do it from the start. So our X variable, our independent variable will be the advertisement quality. Our mediator should be the perceived quality of the product. And our dependent variable or the Y variable should be the intention to purchase the product. Now, these are important to remember. Make sure that if you're running a simple mediation, you use model number 4. But if you're running moderation analysis, you use number 1. Since this is about simple mediation, we use model 4. Okay. And then for the confidence intervals, the standard is 95%. So let's use 95. And then for the bootstrap, you can use up to, so the options here allow you up to 50,000. I'll just stick with 1,000. Basically, in bootstrapping, you ask the software to repeat the analysis for a certain number of times. For example, we ask the SPSS to repeat it 1,000 times. So later we'll know the purpose of bootstrappings, but the standard actually should be 5,000. The only reason why I chose 1,000 is because um, it really takes a long time for it to load. So this is just for demonstration purposes. But I encourage you to use 5,000, if not 10,000 or 20,000. And before you click OK, click on Options. If you would like to see the total effect, which some researchers still report, even though it's but some will no longer report the total effect. No? But if you follow the Barron and Kenny, you can ask the SPSS to report the total effect. So just click on Show Total Effect in Options. Decimal places, I always choose 3. And then I think that's all. We can also click on standardized effects if you would like to see the standardized regression coefficients. So I think it's better if you have the standardized effects. But for this demonstration, I'm going to use the unstandardized effects, but I had it checked. Okay. Anyway, click on continue and then click on OK. Okay, so it will take some time to load. Well, while waiting, it's important to note that you can only have up to 8 characters in the name of the variables, or else the analysis would not run. Okay, now we see that the results are now shown on screen. Okay, I already copied this to the PowerPoint, so let's go back to the presentation. It may look overwhelming because there are too many numbers, so let me guide you through that. So these are the numbers that you need to look at, okay? So we have here the illustration on the right showing you which is which. No? We have here path A, path B, and path C prime. And these are the numbers that you have to look for, okay? So to find path A, I usually look for the first, for if you go back to the SPSS interface, you will see there near the top part of the results, it shows that the outcome variable is the mediator. Product quality. Product quality is the mediator. If you look at that one, okay, you will see here below the effect of advertisement quality on product quality, meaning that is path A. I use the color red for path A, and I type here the coefficient, the regression coefficient for path A. And is it significant? Yes, because this is below 0.05. Actually, it's less than 0.01. So I type here B is equal to 0.199 and 2 asterisks, meaning less than 0.01. And then where do we find paths B and C prime? So if you look at the next output, okay, below the first one, you will see here that the outcome this time is the purchase intention. Okay, meaning this is now looking at the effect of the mediator and the predictor on the outcome variable. So where do we find the path B? So path B, we're talking about the effect of product quality on purchase intention. So we have it here. Here's the coefficient, 0.248, and the p-value is significant, less than 0.001. While path C prime is advertisement quality to purchase intention, and it's significant at less than 0.01. Another thing, we also have here the R squared, just like in regression analysis. So 13% of the variance in purchase intention is explained by the model, is explained by advertisement quality and perceived product quality. So basically, we can see here that all paths are significant. But do we have a partial mediation here or full mediation? Since the path C prime, the direct effect is still significant, what we have here is partial rather than full mediation, since path C prime is still significant. But if this is not significant, okay, that's the time we say that there is full mediation. In this case, this is partial mediation. One more thing. So how do we really say that the indirect effect is significant? Remember, the indirect effect is the combination, no, the product of paths A and path B. If you scroll down on the results in the SPSS interface, you will see there this part of the table, indirect effect of X on Y. And this is the effect. Basically, this 0.049 is the product of this one and this one. So if you multiply them, you will get 0.049. And remember earlier we did bootstrapping. And why did we do that? We asked the software to repeat the analysis for 1,000 times. And because that is according to the recommendations of Preacher and Hayes. According to Preacher and Hayes, to say that the indirect effect is significant, the confidence intervals based on the bootstrapping should not include 0. Okay. Tip, an easy way to check the significance of the indirect effect is to look at the signs of the lower limit confidence intervals and the upper limit confidence intervals. Okay. If both are positive or if both are negative, then the indirect effect is significant. So meaning if they have the same symbol, in this case, both are positive, okay, then we say that the indirect effect is significant. But if one is negative and the other is positive, or vice versa, for example, this is negative and this is positive, then the indirect effect is non-significant. Okay, so what are our clues that the indirect effect is significant? First and foremost, path A is significant, path B is significant. So that already gives us the clue that the indirect effect is significant. Then when we look at the indirect effect on the process macro results, we see here that the confidence intervals are both positive and they did not include 0. Okay, so how do we now report the results? Okay, so if I am the researcher, I would report it like this. Take note that this is not a template. There is no single way to report mediation, but I base it on how mediation results are reported in the literature. But of course, there are more than one way to report mediation results. So let's look at this. Mediation analysis was conducted using Model 4 of process macro for SPSS. The aim of the analysis was to examine the relationship between the quality of advertisement, perceived product quality, and intention to purchase, and to determine if the effect of X on Y was mediated by M. The results showed that the quality of the advertisement positively predicted perceived product quality. Then you report the coefficients. Okay. In turn, perceived product quality also had a positive effect on intention to purchase. Then this is your path B. The indirect effect of X on Y through perceived product quality was significant as the confidence intervals based on 1,000 bootstrap samples did not contain 0. But actually, it should be 5,000. That's the standard. This is just for demonstration purposes. Anyway, Also, so after I discuss the indirect effect, I also spend time to discuss the direct effect to say if the mediation is partial or full. The advertisement quality, also advertisement quality, there's some sort of redundancies here, so maybe it's better as also advertisement quality had a significant direct effect on intention to purchase with the mediator in the model, which means that partial mediation was observed. And then I also report the R squared. The model accounted for a total of 13% of the variance in the dependent variable. And I end with a short explanation of the results. These results suggest that improving the quality of the advertisement can lead to an increase in perceived product quality, which in turn may increase the customer's intention to purchase the product. In other words, better advertisements, meaning better perception of the quality of the product, leading to it may influence the customer's intention to buy the product they have seen on TV or on the internet. Okay, that's it everyone for my lecture and demonstration on how to conduct mediation analysis using process macro for SPSS. Hope you learned a lot. Share this to your friends if they also need help with mediation. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.